Alright guys, in this video we're going to be going back to Zable Fahr for the budget run for a perfect score. So there's a few ways to do this fight. We're going to go for a budget run using very cheap gear, very accessible units, and we're going to go for a turn 1 OTK because it's simpler, and I think this is pretty simple that most players can copy this because Aerith was given for free somewhat recently. 7-star units people can either UOC or should already have, like Realm, Sylvie, and Jessie. Gilgamesh was free very recently, not to mention he's an ancient unit that you can Neo Visions pretty easily. And then Mazurka might be the only question mark here. She's pretty old. Most people have probably been off-bannered by her a few times. And of course, you could replace Mazurka and Jessie with anyone to chain. They are just going to be chainers. Okay. And the reason we're picking Mazurka and Jessie because both of them have AoE, AR, and SR. And one AR and 2 SRs is relatively easy to chain, unlike, for example, triple casting Aurora Ray, which is certainly an option if you got like an auto clicker or something. You can do AR chaining triple casted, no problem at all. But for those of you that want an easier option, we're picking Jessie and Mazurka because, again, they can do the trick that I usually do with Shadow and Zahn, which is like the AR, SR, SR. But we want AoE because we're going for a turn 1 clear. We're going to AoE cap Holy on Aerith. Sylvie is going to be for the Holy Amplify and Stat buff, Realm for the Rod and Peril and Undead Killer, and Gilgamesh for the Break and AoE and Peril. Let's go in here and do the fight, and then I'll show the gear and all. And then I'll explain briefly a way you could do it, without a turn 1 OTK. But for now, let's go ahead and do this. So I guess I will say beforehand, if you don't want to do a turn 1 OTK, or if you can't do one, if you're going for a longer clear, you want to kill this bottom guy immediately on turn 1. He's very, very weak. Just single target chain on him, get him out of here. He does non-elemental magic, which will ruin your perfect score. The other two guys do, I think this is by memory actually, fire and dark damage, single target death, and single target dispel. So bring a magical cover tank with dark and fire immunity, bring an evasion provoker with passive provoke, and you can stall on this fight until the cows come home. You can stall for 50 turns like I did on the JP clear, just set up and do a nice big burst on the main head or something. But we're going for a turn 1 OTK, so we're going to do it this way. So Gilgamesh is going to do AoE and Peril with Genji Blade. We're going to single target light resist with Excalibur and Excalibur for the single target break. Target Zable Fahr A, because only the main head in the middle can be broken, while the others can be imperiled but not broken, or at least not by defensive spirit. Now Realm is going to double. We're going to Rod and Peril with Would You Pose for a Portrait, and we're going to Undead Sketch for a Reaper Killer. Sylvie is going to triple the fun. We're going to do Hop to the Rescue on Aerith. We're going to do all eggs in one basket on Aerith. And then, honestly, that's all we really needed. We didn't even really need a triple, but I guess we'll do Glitter Egg anyway. There's something to do. Okay, so now Jessie is going to triple. We're going to AR with Ace in the Hole and then double SR. And this is all AoE chaining. Mazurka is going to Blazing Lance and then double Emotional. And again, this is all AoE chaining. And now Aerith, we're not going to reflect it. Make sure your Holy is also enhanced to +2. We're just going to regular cast Holy, and then we're going to AoE cap it on all 3 targets. Don't reflect it, because reflecting will make it random target and single and blah, blah, blah. We're not going to do that. So just regular cast Holy. So we're going to go ahead and cast Holy. It takes forever and ever and ever to land. As soon as you see it begin to come from the sky, go ahead and do your chainers, because we want those chains to not cancel from being capped too soon. And somewhere in here is going to be a cap. There's Holy in there somewhere. And there's 100-point chain score. Perfect. So we're looking for 2.4, 2.14, 2.5. So it wasn't actually a super grand slam here because we are going like bottom tier basement budget gear. But it worked. And if you're looking for, better damage, you want to use some STMRs if you can. So here is the gear. It technically worked. Okay, I think that was a little bit closer than I was expecting. I'd prefer something that's more of a guaranteed damage cap. I'll show you the team and the gear, but I think I'm going to do 2 clears. We're going to do another clear because I don't like that was so close. I figured that would be actually a lot higher damage. We're going to do a second clear. Let me go ahead and finish explaining this clear before I get into another clear that I'm going to replan, because that was closer than I would have liked. Okay, so Gilgamesh is just using a Flame Tongue. That's just for weakness damage, so we can get the weakness score because we're killing on turn 1. You want to make sure you get the weakness damage. Doesn't really matter. Yeah, he's naked because we did turn 1 clear. Realm, completely naked. She did the Rod in Peril and the, what's it called? The AoE Undead Killer. Sylvie, just using her TMR. She did the Amplify and the stat buff for Aerith. Mazurka, just using a fire weapon, again, just for weakness damage. We imperiled with Gilgamesh. She just did AR and SR chaining. Jessie, same thing, AR and SR chaining. If you're able to double chain or chain a double casted AR, it's way easier. It's way easier to get the chain count. Lots more units can do that. There's actually not that many units that can do both AR and SR AoE chaining. But Jessie, everyone should have. And Mazurka, hopefully, well, not hopefully, but you've probably been trolled by her off-banner a few times like I have. And then Aerith. Then again, this is super cheap gear. If I had gone STMR build, I would have very, comfortably overcapped the damage. But even with the budget build, it still was enough, technically speaking. Now again, like I mentioned, make sure your holy is enhanced to +2. In the past, when I've done Aerith guides, people don't enhance their holy and it doesn't work for them. They're like, why is it not working? You have to enhance holy to +2. So do that. We are using a rod because of Realms in Peril. So we're using her own personal Chronicle weapon. Everyone should have this. If you have Shui Yi's STMR, that's a way better option. Other than that, Spirit and MP build versus Undead. So we're going with this build. Very cheap, no STMRs, a lot of free gear, some TMRs, an older card. There is absolutely better ways to build her. For example, Oliveira's card or Kresnik's card, stuff like that. You know, STMRs, Shui Yi's STMR, and you can get a stronger Aerith. So here's the build, and we've got, make sure you door pot her Spirit and her MP as well. That's another big thing that people sometimes don't do. And then she had 275 Reaper Killer on Phoenix. So okay, so there is the way to do it with Aerith. It does work. It was a perfect score. It wasn't as overkilled as I would have liked. I'm going to plan another budget run that doesn't do a turn 1 clear. See you in a moment. Alright guys, like I mentioned, we're going to be rerunning this with a team that hopefully more comfortably overkills this boss with the damage cap. So we're going to go with this team. Let's give it a go. We're using pretty budget gear. We're using Cobalt Blade Noctis, who's again an older unit. I think he's even available in the Clash of Wills choice shop. Okay, as I mentioned, if you're not going to kill on turn 1, you want to kill this bottom head immediately. So Aerith is going to do her base form LB to amplify and imbue Holy Element. We're going to use Jessie to just triple for the moment. We're going to Midgar special a few times just to fill LB gauge. Zizat will just cover the party with cover magic. We're going to use Noctis to triple. We're going to double Royal Cleave, which is a single target attack, and we're going to use the third cast as his Undead Killer buff. Zahn is just going to double up Stardust Ray, and we're going to chain that on the bottom head. This should very comfortably overkill this by a tremendous amount. Oh yeah, big overkill. There we go. That head is now dead. We don't have to worry about damage taken. Shadow is just guarding for now. He's just literally going to be here for the chaining on the burst turn. So that's handled. So the boss does single target stuff, death, dispel, etc. We're provoking with Jessie, who is evasion as well as death immune. And then we've got fire and dark resist on both Jessie and Zizat. The reason we're giving it to Jessie as well is because sometimes single target stuff will not be covered because, you know, cover tanks aren't 100%, or at least Zizat is not. I don't think he is. He may even be. But in any case, it's very easy to gear. There's no imperils, so all you need is 100%. Very easy to do. Anyway, we're now going to use Noctis to go ahead and put up his Sword in Peril with his base form, LB. Yeah, these bosses are really squishy. We actually almost... We don't want to push the boss below 50, because below 50 the boss gets phase 2. So that was a ton of damage. Maybe I shouldn't have done Aerith's buff. So I guess you don't want to use Aerith's buff on turn 1, because we almost pushed too much damage. Yeah, so I guess don't use Aerith's LB until after you've done the Sword in Peril. In any case, we didn't overkill it, so it's fine, you know, whatever. We'll just use Zan on this turn to critical Noctis, elemental Noctis, and survival on Noctis. We'll guard Shadow. We'll just have Zizat cover again. Aerith can just guard. Jesse can just guard. And we're going to jump and kill in the next 2 turns. Alright, some attacks right here. There's the AoE stuff. We're covering it all. Not a problem. Alright, let's go ahead and shift Noctis and jump him on this turn. Nothing else we really need to do here. You know, go ahead and jump. We'll guard. We'll guard. We will just, you know, whatever this. And actually, our stat buffs are going to wear off because I did this timing terribly. No, it's not. Yes, it is. Oof. I've done this very, very unoptimally. Let's go ahead and LB with Jesse, and let's have Zan, Stardust, and double A. Oh, nope, doing it wrong. Let's have Zan, AR, and double Stardust. With Shadow, will AR and double Stardust. All right, wait for this to finish. And let's give it a go. Alright, let's see how much damage we did. I messed it up pretty hard. We don't have the attack buff anymore in Noctis. It's worn off at this point. I almost overkilled by a tremendous amount. I'm going to run that again and fix those mistakes to make it less rocky. Yeah, I made some big mistakes that time. Again, I didn't do a test run, so we just did it. Anyway, Noctis and mostly budget gear very, very comfortably overkills that. We're going to run that one more time, though, because I am not happy with the way that turned out. Yeah, we almost pushed the boss into the threshold. And if your gear is better than mine, or you're using better gear, which you should be doing, Noctis might have pushed the main head into phase 2. So we're going to do this differently. All right. So we're not gonna stat buff. We're just going to have Noctis right away on turn 1, double cast Royal and King's Encouragement. Zan is going to double up Stardust Ray. We're not going to use Aerith on turn 1. Alright, let's go ahead and chain this up. This should, again, very comfortably overkill this. Yeah, without even stat buffs, we overkilled it, not a problem. Okay, so once again, Zizat is going to cover. We're not going to use Aerith yet. We're not going to do Shadow yet. Jessie is going to triple Midgar Special to get her LB filled. And okay. Okay, some attacks, not a problem. Alright, now we still didn't do Aerith yet. Now we're going to do Noctis' LB for the Sword in Peril. So at this point, we shouldn't even come close to... Okay, way, way better. The other head didn't die. Doesn't even matter. We don't care about him. You know, forget it. It's fine. Now Aerith is going to LB her base form and imbue, amplify, etc. Zan will go ahead and double up. Let's critical on Noctis and projected those buffs just to extend them for later. We can guard you. We can do this, and then we can cover magic. Okay, so yeah, this is a lot smoother doing it this way. Less risk of possibly pushing the boss. There's the dispel on Jesse. The top head does that. Doesn't really matter. It's fine. Alright, let's go ahead and Warp Strike and jump on the main Zable Fahr. Let's see. Guard, guard. Put his cover again, whatever. Some attacks. Not a problem. Yeah, as you see that time, you see Zzat didn't cover the single target attack because Zzat doesn't have 100% cover. If Jessie wasn't immune, she would have taken damage and ruined the run. That's why you want to gear both for immunity. Anyway, Jessie will now go ahead and do our LB, and we're going to, again, cap again now that we've properly done this. All right, and then Shadow, just going to AR and double SR. And we're going to, all right, chain this up. And then drop Noctis. Okay, so this time we had oh, and the AOE chain from turn 1 even killed the little guy. Not a problem. If the other head, there we go, 4.4. If the other head didn't die on this turn, just chain on him with Noctis on the next turn. It's not a problem. If you kill the main head, the other one doesn't care. So there we go. There was a much smoother clear. 4 billion. We only needed 2.1. Got it. Let's go ahead and show the gear. Alright, manage party. So the gear was on Noctis, pretty budget. I did use 1 copy of Ultimate Blade. Hopefully by this point everyone has 1 copy if you've got, if you're using Cobalt Blade Noctis. His own STMR, other than that, everything else is TMR and below. Base form is just built for damage versus undead. Noctis very easily gears for undead damage. Shift form is jump damage versus undead. There's his build. He even had a spare material slot with GF extension. You can just replace that with whatever you need. He's maxed on Reaper and almost maxed on Jump. Again, not using STMRs, it wasn't quite maxed. He overkilled by a huge amount. It didn't really matter. The rest of the party is Zzat, just a magical cover tank. Literally any magical cover tank you want is totally fine. Give them 100% to fire and dark resist. You don't want them provoking if possible because you want your evasion immune unit provoking. Or if you have the gear for it, you can make your magic provoke tank also the provoker. So actually you don't want that because the boss dispels and it might dispel your provoke. I mean, it might dispel your cover. I don't know the action order. Just for safety, make someone else your provoker instead of your magical cover tank. Anyway, just fire and dark resist. Aerith, naked, literally here just for the buff. Jessie, passive provoke, evasion, death immunity, and I gave her 100 to fire and dark resist again because sometimes the single target stuff can slip through cover. As you saw, one of the dark attacks did get through cover because Zzat just didn't cover it. Immune, doesn't really matter. Very easy to gear. She's super easy to gear. I love Jessie. There you go. Shadow, shift form. I mean, technically speaking, I geared him for damage. I already forgot what the damage was. I think his damage was complete trash tier because he never got his JP upgrades. He is maxed on Reaper Killer, and he's using double sword for the Imperil. But, yeah, he never got his JP upgrades, so his damage is poop. Zan, literally just a holy weapon and chaining. You know, that's it. Just a chainer. We saw Noctis. Okay, so there was 2 clears on Zable Fahr. Both of them got a damage cap. Aerith was a little bit tight. The Noctis clear was heavy overkill, even with budget gear. If you had loaded him up with STMRs, it would have been even higher. Okay, see you next time.